Hi, this is Li Meng. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for Razer Inc. I also double head as CEO of Razer Fintech, a very new business that we are driving huge growth with. Very proud to be here today. I am from and had graduated from an Ivy League school. I was from Columbia's engineering school, graduated class of '02. Well, that's the challenge for me every day. I think when we listed the company, we talked about ourselves building the world's largest or the world's first integrated ecosystem of hardware, software, and services. I think I'm not going to do a PR thing about our numbers. You can actually find it on our website for our numbers. But I think what is interesting is maybe I can show you our corporate video. It really shows the transformation of Razer from just a purely hardware business to really what we think of ourselves today is really a lifestyle brand for the youth and millennials, the digital native people like yourselves. You probably spend a lot of time in your dorms playing games in the middle of the night, which I did when I was at Columbia. So here you go. A good question. I guess, I'm an engineer by training, although sadly I've never actually worked a day as an engineer. I went straight into finance. I joined JP Morgan right after graduation. I worked in Hong Kong. Then my ex-girlfriend then said, come back to Singapore or I'll really become your ex-girlfriend. And I moved back to Singapore. At that point in time, I reconnected with a very, very old friend of mine, Min, kind of 2008, when he was literally just growing the business. I had no idea he ran the business. I was a big fan of the brand, and clearly you can imagine the surprise when I found out that the founder was a old classmate of mine. So over the years, I've been following the business very closely. I actually started the Asia franchise for Evercore, independent investment bank out of the US. And the very first NDA I signed when we started the franchise was with Razer, figuring out how can we help them grow the business. Subsequently, I helped them do a couple of pre-IPO fundraising. I was lucky to be selected as the financial advisor at the IPO in Hong Kong, where I spent a lot of time with Min, understanding his vision, why he did certain things. It was not very, I would say, apparent to many people then. But we spent so much time that I actually thought, hey, I missed out on the initial boat of being part of Razer, but there's so much more things to do. And, after the IPO, I ended up in Razer. Well, lessons, I wouldn't say lessons. I would say that it's been a very rude shock to the culture. I've always worked in a very, I would say, structured investment bank. I guess the rude shock is moving from investment banking into a tech company. The work is interesting, is intense, but very, very different in nature, right? So, I think it was the first, I would say 12 months was really understanding the full breadth of the business, because we are now across 16 offices worldwide. And my role was really to look at how we grow the business that we have. So the first 12 months was really kind of thrown in the deep end, understanding business, meeting the team members and all that. And, I think from then on, it was probably easier. But then I was thrown another curveball, which is, the Razer Fintech business, which we had just started. And I guess looking around, I was the only guy with a finance background, with some level of engineering and tech background. And I was asked to take over that in Jan this year. I wouldn't say I'm personally taking a very visionary role. I think it's all across the management of Razer, and definitely driven by our founder and CEO, Min. A lot of things were things, as I mentioned earlier, that we talked about during the IPO, why we did certain things like spend money to build out our software platform. When we talked about building an ecosystem, why did we divert our attention from a very strong business, which is just hardware? Why are we doing services, and why fintech, right? So, I think in order to keep ahead of the game, I think number one is to protect the brand, to always make sure that the products and services that we push out have our users, right at the center. Some do make money, some don't. Some are short term, some are longer term. So it's all about balance, right? So, obviously being a listco as well, listed company, there are certain pressures to continue growing the business. The existing business has been growing very well, but we're always on the lookout, understanding the future trends, and I guess investing time to understand the business so that we are ready to tap on those when they actually become reality. Well, I would say COVID-19 has really disrupted everyone's life. It's not I wouldn't take credit for this, but I think many people are saying that COVID-19 has been the biggest disruptor in recent history, right? Everything is pivoting online, whether it's, study from home, work from home, engaging in community building events are no longer physical. So I think tech will play a very, very big part in the future. Consumer behavior and just regular behavior is not going to go back to what it was before COVID-19. I think maybe if the borders reopen, there could be an initial rush, but once you're used to doing certain things online, you will continue to be that way. COVID-19 has also, I would say, accelerated a lot of new technology, the adoption wise. Things that you probably think will take 2, 3, 4, 5 years to be there, you're already starting to see that whether it's the government, it's private sector companies like ourselves, really driving it forward. Challenges for the tech company, I think, given the overall economic climate, I think the challenge would be to make sure that if you are doing a business, do you go through a period of investment? And when do you actually commercialize and obviously start making profits, right? I think the biggest issue right now is, while the very big companies are obviously having access to funding, the smaller ones are having probably some issues. So as you start your business, I think, especially during COVID-19, is while you're developing your product, is with an eye to how do I then make this a viable business? Because the funding is not going to be free flow for a long time. You need to make sure you make good use of the dollars that come in. Well, again, going back, I think very first thing is probably because at Razer we always put the user right at the center. My CEO is a gamer. I would say, enthusiast gamer. How we look at a business is always, if we push out a product or service, number one, is there anyone who actually buy it, right? Are there people who use it? And not just use it, would they use it on a regular basis? Because that gives you that consistent, I would say, product development roadmap that you can enhance. So again, with an eye onto viability, commercialization, and all that, is something that people in good times, when funding was easy, tend to forget. Being focused as well, I think is going to be key. The tendency again is when you have new investors coming in and they give you ideas like, how about you take this technology and put it in this new industry segment? The next one comes and say, I'll give you dollars and you should do something else in another completely different industry. Is you end up being spread too thin. And, obviously you do it because it's dollars to help you grow the business. But eventually when you hit something like COVID-19 and you look back and you kind of go, which one is near commercialization? Which one can actually take me to the next stage? You realize everything is kind of like 20% here, 50% there, and then you get stuck and people have to restructure, reposition. So, I would say it's probably better to focus on one or two things and do really well there than try to focus on too many things and spread yourself too thin. I would say that maybe it's based on my own experience. I like to challenge myself. I think the biggest challenge, as I've mentioned, was going from an investment banking job to a corporate and then running my own business. I would say that keep reminding yourself on a daily basis why you're doing it. There will always be good days. There will always be bad days. There will be days where you just can't. You keep wondering to yourself, why did I even do this in the first place? But if you kind of already know and you have that, goal in sight, is to keep up that positive energy. And I think that always helps.